Hey, Bougie Club. Happy Tuesday. How did everybody's children's first day of school go? Hopefully it went well. Y'all excuse my voice. But I got to talk to y'all about a conversation I had with my children last night when we were doing our debrief. And Gigi came home from work and told me how her day was. And I was convicted. I got convicted in my spirit on the conversation that we had last night, this morning, and I wrestled with it and I said I'm gonna go live and talk to the Bougie Club about it. And then I paused and I hesitate and I'm like, nah, that's gonna be a controversial topic and it might go all the way left. And so I was like, I ain't gonna talk about it. I'll talk about it in the class. And you know, the Spirit said, nah, you need to talk about it this morning. I gave it to you this morning to talk about it this morning. And so I was wrestling with it. And, you know, we're almost closing this fast. And so today's reading was rejections, right? But yesterday's reading was no more props, saying that he's going to remove all the props that he's been giving you to walk in your faith and lean on his word. And so this morning it says rejection. You know, it was coming out of Luke, and it was telling us, you know, there's plenty of work, but the workers are few. And I'm just gonna share with y'all my conversation I had with my babies, and where it goes is where it goes, and I ain't gonna worry about it because I'm putting principles over profit today. So I was having a conversation with Jairi, and if y'all seen pictures of Jairi on my personal page, I know I got a pretty baby. She's a beautiful young lady. And she's just got a new job, and she's working in the drive-thru. And so Sunday she came home, and she was telling me how a gentleman in the driveway made her feel uncomfortable because he kept staring at her. And when he finally said something, he told her how beautiful she was. And, you know, she was like, oh, okay, thank you. But it made her uncomfortable. So she's at a point now where she's in the public without me. And she's older. She's 17. And she's starting to receive approaches from men. And so we have to have these conversations so she knows how to handle it when they approach her. And you know, we talk about how it makes her feel and how she handles it. So we're having real conversations over here at my house. So yesterday she was working the drive-thru again, and she was telling me that a guy asked her for her number. So she's telling me the story, and she was like, but Mom, he was a white boy. And I was like, okay, so did you give him your number? She was like, well, yeah, because I gave him my number because I felt like if I didn't give him my number, you know, they were going to keep pressing, so I just needed to get him out the driveway. And so she was like, but he was a white boy. And I'm like, well, okay. I said, so what's wrong with that? I said, so he was a white boy. He might be nice. And so my son was there. And my son says, now mind you, my son is 23. My son says, oh, so she could date a white boy, so I guess that means I could date a white girl. And my instant response was, hell no. So I need you all to understand where my instantaneous hell no comes from, because in reflecting on that conversation, I had to look at myself in the mirror. And sometimes when we look at ourselves in the mirror, what we see isn't pretty. So first, I don't want y'all to think I'm a hypocrite. So that's why I'm having this conversation with y'all, because I tell y'all we need to have colorless conversations. And this is why we have to start having colorless conversations, because America's life, and if you live in America or anywhere else in the world for that matter, we live in living color. And the living colors that we live in is for real. So we have to be honest. Now, I would like to think I'm not a racist. I would like to think I'm not prejudiced. You know, I got white friends. I have some really good friends who happen to be on the other side of the color lines. I have biracial nieces and nephews, but for my son dating a white woman, the thought of it was just absolutely out of the question. And this is why, because I grew up and my son lives in the African American reality in this country. So for my son, it is dangerous for him to date a white woman, even as far as we come. So you say, how so? Just by being a males are dominant, and they just exude a sense of power because they're males, right? And males are protectors, and we think of them as these fierce individuals who can protect us, and you know, when harm comes our way, you know, they can battle lions and tigers. So that's just being a male. Couple that with being a black male or African American male. My son not only goes from being a powerful figure, he goes to being a threat. He goes to being a threat just because his skin is black. For me, that's very scary. So I don't want y'all to think I live in a bubble. I do feel like we need to have colorless conversations, and we got to be honest about what's really going on and why we feel the way we feel on both sides of the fence. So all I can tell you and share with you is my African American experience and why I have fear for my son having the potential to date someone that doesn't look like him, particularly a white woman. So white America, y'all have to understand, for many African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian American, y'all the boogeyman. Y'all the thing that goes bump in the night. When little kids are scared of the dark and you do that little process where you turn the lights off and you stay with them, and you know, they kind of scared and they like, something's under the bed, something's in the closet, and then you turn the lights on and then you make them look under the bed to prove to them something's not there, or you make them look in the closet to show them that there's no ghost in the closet, and then they're more comfortable with the lights on than they are with the dark. That's the African American relationship with white America. We cool in the daytime. We feel a little more comfortable when people can see and there's people around, but ooh, when the lights go off, or ooh, when we with y'all by ourselves and we get pulled over on a dark road and it ain't nobody but me and you, it gets totally different. As a black woman, I don't like to travel at night because I'm scared, because I know that there's a difference, because I've been in those situations. So when my son asked me, oh, so it's okay for me to date a white woman, I instantly went to Emmett Till's and Nat Turner's and the boys that I went to high school with who ended up getting hemmed up and going to jail and losing their scholarships because they were dating a white girl and she got caught by her parents and lied, and then whatever she said became the truth. This is reality. This is my reality. This is my experience, and this is why I instantly answered that answer no. But what it showed me was we parent our children different, and that's just the truth. That's just the truth. We have similar and shared experiences, but we have to acknowledge that the African Americans' experience is different. And this is why when you encounter us or we encounter each other, you get different reactions. White America, y'all scared of us, we scared of y'all. But our fear has a little more bite to it because no one protects us. The court system doesn't protect us. No one sees our justification and why we are afraid. So for me, when I was having that conversation with my children, I realized how I raised my son is totally different than how I raised my daughter. And there's going to be difference than that. But for me, it was like, bam, the blinders got taken off. And I don't think that I'm a racist. I don't think that I'm prejudiced. But am I? I like to think that I'm racially tolerant, you know, because I still have those fears for my son. I have conversations with my son. You know, we live in a mixed neighborhood, but it's predominantly white. In the ways he has to get here, don't ride with your music up. You know, I had to tell him he wanted to buy a specific car. You know, my son would tell me, Mom, I feel more comfortable driving your car when I go out if I'm going to come over here because you got a nice car. I drive a Mercedes. He got a car with rims and tinted windows. My son calls that a pullover car. That's the reality. It's certain cars that people drive that's automatically going to get you pulled over. I had to have conversations with him about what to do when he gets pulled over. Don't talk back. Don't look him in the eye. Look straight forward. He has a thing in his car where his license and all of that is right there where he can get through it, because it's real for our population. And it dawned on me when my daughter was telling me about this young white man boy asking her for her phone number in the drive-thru, and I was a little more receptive for her being open to that experience. But when my son said, oh, so it's okay for me too, I instantly went into a no. So it's important that we think about this and consider this, because our children are going back to school and they are going into the classroom. What I realized with my son, one time I was at his school doing a Jesus visit. And a Jesus visit is, you don't know when I'm going to show up at the school, so you better always be acting on your best, because I might just pop up. I do drop-ins. I go, to the classes and see what my kids are doing. And we were walking down the hall, and one of his classmates, who happened to be white, told him, "What's up, my N?" And I used the N word. I was appalled. I was offended. I felt some type of way. And my son gave him the same response back. And I'm looking at him like, what in the hell is wrong with y'all? The generation of children that we're raising don't see colors the same way that we see colors. However, our real experiences have shaped the way that we see color. But things have changed. The world is more inclusive. There's things that are more socially acceptable. So our children don't see things the same way that we see them, but because of our experiences, we project our fears from our real experiences onto our children. And that's why I feel like in this country, we're in this perpetual cycle of racial divide. So we have to have these honest conversations about how we feel. Now, I'm just going to lend on the conversations that me and my friends have when we have conversations in private, because the same conversations that we have with outsiders is not the same conversations we have with insiders, and that's on both sides of the fence. It's one-sided and it's biased. We can see the bias and the racism and the prejudice on the other side of the fence, but often we can't see it on our side of the fence, and we can't see it within ourselves. So all I'm saying is, for me, it was a reality check that I'm struggling with some issues based on experience of dealing with racism and prejudice in this country, that as an African American mother, I've projected onto my children, and I've done it differently, and I've projected it differently based on their gender. And so gender bias is real, just like color bias is real. And as a parent, I felt like I just needed to be naked with y'all on this situation, because it really had me feel some type of way. So I have to sit down with all three of my children and have a real conversation about who they're dating, because I might be limiting them from meeting their perfect match, like the person that was created for them, because my son really isn't dating white women because I told him don't bring a white girl home. And because I taught him that, he's carrying it out into his adult world. Now, he's dated biracial girls, but when she come home, she look like she one of us. And so I'm like, oh, wow. It didn't like our kids listen to us. Our kids are watching us, and our belief systems are passed down from generation to generation. And even as racially tolerant as I believe that I am, I'm even perpetuating this continuous cycle and this divide. And don't look, black folks, don't jump on me, because I know it's real. It's my fears are coming from a real place. Y'all see the timeline, y'all see the news feed, but what I want everybody to understand, there's a reason why you get the reaction that you get. We're talking about sending our kids back to school, depending on where your child. Now, if your children live in Memphis, they're going to see teachers of all races. I grew up north. I can count on 2-3 fingers how many black teachers that I had. I had Miss Bush in 4th grade. I had Mr. Lovelady when I was in either 7th or 8th grade in middle school. And then we had a black coach in the school system, but he didn't go to the school that I went to. He didn't coach there. His name was Mr. McBride. He coached at Southeast. But even though I went to Southeast, I went to Springfield and Lanphier, everybody knew Mr. McBride because he was the black coach. So even in Springfield, Illinois, the capital of Illinois, I only encountered 3 black teachers when I was in Springfield my whole career. Now, when I was going to school in Chicago, it was a little different. It was more black teachers. But you have to consider this if I'm telling you how I'm projecting my feelings when it comes to race onto my own children. We got to be real honest about how the teachers and the educators are projecting their same internal biases onto children without even realizing it, because I didn't get it until last night when my son asked me the question, and I was like, whoa. So these are the realities that we live in. This is the America that we live in. And we got to get to a point where we can have some colorless conversations and we can start getting to know each other more, so we can see that we have commonalities, so that we can start dealing with each other different, because we're going to keep perpetuating the cycle. As progressive as I like to think that I am guilty of perpetuating the cycle, and how I've chose to raise my children out of necessity for the realities of what they're going to experience once they leave the comforts of my home. Because when they walk out my door, the boogeyman is real, and I have to prepare them for the boogeyman. So until we start talking about the boogeymans and start changing who we are on the inside, so that our children don't have to face the boogeyman when they leave out the door, because as parents, we want to protect them. So I got to prepare them for dangers and harm that they're going to come encounter to. But when they go into the classroom and when they leave out my door, I can no longer protect them. And even in their presence, there's a limited amount of protection I can provide them. So we got to be honest, and you all have to understand and respect the perspective of minorities in this country, because the boogeyman is real for us. And we want it to be better. We diligently want it to be better, because we don't want to have to tell our kids the boogeyman is real. I want to be able to tell my child that the same thing that he sees with the lights on is the same thing he's going to see with the lights off. But for many American children who aren't of the majority hue, the boogeyman is real. And they see the boogeyman at the grocery store. They see the boogeyman on the news. And what they see about the boogeyman on the news is validating all of their fears. You can't think that our kids aren't looking at these newscasts and seeing all of these instances of police brutality and negative sentencing towards people that look like them and not be afraid. Our children are afraid. Not only that, when it comes to February and Black History Month, white America, y'all want to continue to perpetuate the fear and show them images of Black Americans being harmed by white people. We're progressive. I'm not saying Nat Turner doesn't have his place. I'm not saying that Roots doesn't have its place. But in the 21st century, there are more positive images that you can show of the African American experience in this country to get our children to be able to be more receptive of each other. Start showing, because let's be honest, if you watch Selma or you doing any type of research on the civil rights movement, it wasn't until white people started joining the marches that the brutality stopped. When they went to cross that bridge at Selma, Alabama, they reconsidered, because it was an army of white people marching with them. So white people, you can change the narrative for us and offer us some shield and protection and start having these conversations with people that look like you, because we can't have them. But our experience is real, and you can't discount our experience. You have to understand our experience to know that our experience is real. And I get that y'all afraid of us because the news shows you as our boys being aggressive, but that's not all of our boys. My son got rear-ended by a white lady a couple of months ago. And it was an interesting experience, because when he got out of his car, first of all, he had a car with tinted windows and rims. She rear-ended him, and he wasn't doing nothing. But when he hopped out the car, my son got dreads. So you talking about a dread-headed, young African-American male, and he had his little gold teeth in his mouth. He got the pop-outs. So I can imagine to her that she probably got very afraid and very nervous. And we live in Memphis. So Memphis, let's keep it 100. That lady didn't know how that thing was going to turn out. She done hit this boy car, and he ain't did nothing to her. And then you see a male figure. Then add on top of that an African-American figure, because you know once you put the hue on there, then he becomes threatening, because that's the only image she sees of boys that fit that description. And it was so eye-opening for him, because he was really upset, because this was his car. He paid for this car. He bought this car. He wasn't doing anything wrong. He was sitting at the light minding his business, and he was really upset. And I had to tell him, it might have had to happen for you to give this woman and this police officer who showed up a different perspective of young men who look like you. Now, this lady kept thanking him, and when I arrived, thanking me. Oh my God, he's so nice. He's so respectful. I'm so sorry. You know, she was very, very apologetic, like over apologetic, but she was thanking him for being nice. Like, she was thanking him for being rational in the situation. So that let me know that she really expected a different experience. So this is why I was clicking on the pool party, because this incident with the accident happened before the pool party. Like, we have to understand that there is opportunities where we get to change the perception. This was an older white lady. I'm sure that she gets to go to the comforts of her home and choose not to have any dealings with 20-year-old black males if she chooses to. But that particular encounter gave her a positive alternative to what she sees about him in the media. So I just had to keep it 100 with y'all. I know y'all gotta go to work. I'm getting ready to go to work too. But I had to get naked with y'all and share my revelation on why these colorless conversations are important, on why we have to be open enough to hear the truth and have these honest, colorless conversations. So don't get on here going left and right. We know that we have real issues in this country. I know that the African American experience is real. I've experienced it in I don't know how many different situations. But I do know that all white people aren't bad. I have some friends that I'm really close with that don't look like me. You know, and when that video went viral, my white friends didn't feel comfortable commenting on the post because they didn't want to be attacked. So all I'm saying is, we have to have honest conversations. We have to be able to have tolerant and empathetic conversations. Remember, I told y'all when y'all first met me, empathy was the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes so that you can gain some understanding. So we have to have empathetic conversations, and we got to figure out how we do change, because our kids don't want to continue living in this fear that we've lived in. And unfortunately, our real experiences continue to perpetuate the fears. So I don't know how to fix it, but I think a first step is being able to have colorless conversations from an empathetic perspective, and recognizing that people do judge us based on how we look, and our boogeyman are real. The monster under the bed is real for us, but unfortunately for minorities in this country, our boogeyman doesn't disappear when we turn the lights on. Our boogeyman and our monsters under the bed and in the closets haunt us, whether it's night or day, whether we're at the school, whether we're at the grocery store, or whether we're just minding our own business walking down the street. For minorities in this country, the boogeyman is real. But who we perceive as the boogeyman has the ability to change our perception. It has you all, white America, you all have the ability to change our perceptions amongst yourselves and how the rest of the world sees us by what you choose to report about us. So I'm gonna put a call out to white America. Start showing more positive images of us in the news. You know, when y'all control what comes on in February, start showing our modern day heroes. Start showing our children that in the 21st century, there is African Americans who are doing great things. This is why I'm trying to get Epic Every Day off the ground, because they need to know it's more than Oprah. They need to know it's more than Tyler Perry. They need to know they have Oprahs and Tyler Perrys and Michael Jordans and Barack Obamas living next door to them in their neighborhoods. There are everyday people that look like them that are doing positive things and affecting change in our communities. Get some reality unsung heroes in front of our babies in these textbooks, in these once a year month celebrations in African American history. We got more than just Martin Luther King. We got more than just Barack Obama. We have to show all of our children more positive images of the African American experience. So that's what I feel like we need to do. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. But if we're going to love on these babies and we're going to see something different in this world, we got to do something different. Doing the same thing and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. And we got to quit being crazy. We got to be bougie. So I'm going to encourage you all to be bold, to be outspoken, to be unapologetic, goodwill, inspiring, and epic every day. I love y'all to death. I pray that you all maintain your manners in the comments in this post, because I welcome open conversation, but I will send y'all to the block party, because, you know, my goal is to have colorless conversations on difficult topics so that we can move to a place of solution and change. We already know what it is. So if you're not offering some solutions, we don't have to keep beating dead horses. Our Facebook timelines does enough of that. So the Bougie Club needs to be something different. We're the united colors of the Bougie Club. So let's figure out how to make it better. I love you all. This is your girl, J Penelope. Have a tontacular Tuesday, and I will talk to you all later.